What's up, Fox Done Fox here, and Hello Neighbor 2 came out without anybody, I think, realizing. Like, I didn't see any advertisements for this game, and it apparently, like, isn't even really available on Steam yet. It's just also available on Xbox Game Pass right now, and it's confusing a lot of people. Unsurprisingly, it's falling into a lot of pitfalls that the first Hello Neighbor did when it comes to bugs and issues with that. With that said, it is an indie game that has been brought to like AAA status. I'm sure it's been funded by other people, considering it is on Xbox Game Pass at this point. But it still maintains the art style and aesthetic of the original trilogy, of the original title. So I wanted to see how it run on Intel Iris Xe graphics, as we do on this channel. I will be doing a playthrough of this on my other channel, Yeah Fox, just in case you're interested. But with that said, the computer that I'm using for this was the Samsung Book 2 Pro 360. It has an i7 1280p in it, which has 4 performance cores and 8 efficiency cores with 16 threads in total. It has a max turbo frequency of 4.7 gigahertz, and it has 18 megabytes of Intel Smart Cache, a base power of 28 watts, goes up to 64 watts. It also, of course, has Intel Iris Xe graphics, and my personal model has 16 gigs of RAM as well as a 1TB NVMe SSD, and the graphics max out at 1.4 gigahertz. So with all that said and done, let's get into the benchmarks. So the first thing that I did was 1080p with very low, but there's something about 1080p very low that changes the game drastically, which I strongly dislike being in the preset options. That is resolution scaling. So what you're seeing here is most definitely not 1080p because the resolution scale was set to very low. And if you're going to have the res scale a part of the settings that change with the presets, then at least instead of saying very low to very high, put 25% res scale, 50%, so that way we can just see what's actually happening. My guess is that this is below 50% res scale because it looks really bad. But with that said, it did garner us a pretty solid frame rate. It gave us 84 FPS with a 1% low of 35 and a 0.1% low of 20. So there is going to be moments of slowdown and stutter here and there, but that is because Hello Neighbor 2 is also just a Hello Neighbor game, and I don't think it's anything to do with the fact that the processor is being exerted, because Iris Xe graphics are no match for this processor. Even with this horrendously low res scale, the game never goes above like 30% CPU usage, so I'm not going to consider anything that's done with stuttering having to do with the CPU, considering this game is also just brand new and has some stuff to figure out. But you have no issues playing this game if you want to choose the very low, which also does the render resolution at very low. I think the Game Boy Color had more pixels than on screen. So what I decided to do was crank everything to very low again, but keep res scale on very high, which I assume is native res, but I don't know. So the next thing I decided to do is crank everything to very low again, but keep the res scale at very high, which I assume is native, and we saw a return of 44 FPS with a 1% low of 21 and a 0.1% low of 18. And I still don't even think this is the way to go, and I'll tell you why shortly, but if you are fine with a 45 FPS experience and you need that full res, I think this is the way to do it. I think you can even crank things up to low / very low settings, but it seems like low does take quite a bit more performance because it does look a lot better, which is where I find the middle ground, which is Hello Neighbor 2 with the low settings as opposed to the very low settings at 1080p with the low resolution scale. So not the very low resolution scale, which we saw before, but the low resolution scale, which does make things a little bit sharper and not as hard on the eyes. And we saw an average frame rate of 57 FPS with a 1% low of 24 and a 0.1% low of 21. Now, if I was going to play this game on this laptop, I think that that's how I would do it because the low settings look drastically better than very low. The lighting is much better with the low settings, and pop-in isn't nearly as bad. On very low, things will pop in right in front of you like it's Pokemon Scarlet. But with that said, you're going to have no issues playing this game at the low settings with the low res scale, and I think that that might be the best way to do it. You might want to play around with the settings and have some on very low, others on low, and then have the render scale set to medium and see if that works out better for you. If you want a more exhaustive list, I'm more than happy to add an addendum to this video in the future, but this was just sort of a test to see with base presets what I could do. Anything above low destroyed the game. Medium did not run above 20 FPS, so obviously high and ultra and everything else is not going to run very well. And from what I've heard, it's not just Iris Xe graphics, but like the original Hello Neighbor 2 also is apparently having issues with performance when it comes to those higher settings. But you're not gonna have any issues with that on the Iris XE graphics because you're not gonna be able to push things above medium. So have fun with that. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, like, subscribe, do what you usually do, and as always, buy yourself something nice.